That bombshell book rocking the White House, Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House. It features blistering attacks on the president and his family from Steve Bannon, the strategist by Trump's side during the campaign and the early days in the White House. It has drawn a furious response from President Trump, now threatening legal action against Bannon. And our senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega is here with the explosive details. Cecilia, the White House on a war footing over this.
Hey, George, good morning. The president's lawyers are demanding Steve Bannon stop making what they call disparaging comments about the president and his family. And just now they sent a letter to the author accusing him of defamation, demanding he not release this book. Behind closed doors of the White House, President Trump allegedly critiqued his top aides, calling son-in-law Jared Kushner a suck-up, senior advisor Kellyanne Conway a crybaby, and former press secretary Sean Spicer stupid. At the center of the fallout, a man once in the inner circle, who Trump has called a friend, former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon.
There's nobody we think higher of than President Trump.
Bannon offering his own bombshell accusations about that now infamous Trump Tower meeting between Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, campaign chairman Paul Manafort, and a Russian lawyer whom they were told had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Bannon called it treasonous, unpatriotic, and he said Team Trump, quote, should have called the FBI immediately. All in a tell-all book, Fire and Fury, by veteran journalist Michael Wolff, who had unprecedented access to the White House. In it, Bannon says there's a 0% chance Donald Jr. didn't take the attendees of that Trump Tower sit-down to meet the president, despite the president's insistence he knew nothing about it. Bannon taking aim at Trump's daughter, too, saying Ivanka was a non-event on the campaign, and that, quote, she became a White House staffer, and that's when people suddenly realized she's dumb as a brick. 312 pages pulling the curtain back on the Trump administration, saying Ivanka also discussed the possibility of running for president herself. The White House calls it trashy tabloid fiction.
I think furious, disgusted would probably certainly fit when you make such outrageous claims and completely false claims against the president, his administration, and his family.
But just months ago, Trump lavished praise on Bannon.
I have a very good relationship, as you know, with Steve Bannon. Steve's been a friend of mine for a long time. I like Steve a lot.
Now the president going public with an unprecedented rebuke, saying, quote, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Overnight on Breitbart News Radio, Bannon praised the president.
The president of the United States is a great man. You know, I support him day in and day out.
Wolff goes on to write that almost everyone on the Trump campaign thought Mr. Trump would not only not be president, they thought he should not be president. Even the president himself, Wolff says, didn't think he would win. And his wife was so opposed to the idea, she was in tears when he did, though her spokeswoman disputes it. No one is off limits. The book says Ivanka Trump makes fun of her father's comb-over hair, and the notoriously germophobic president ordered White House staff not to touch anything, especially his toothbrush, reprimanding housekeeping staff, saying, if my shirt is on the floor, it's because I want it on the floor, and that he had a long-time fear of being poisoned. That's one reason he ate so much McDonald's. The food was pre-made, and no one knew he was coming. Now, the author says that he spoke to more than 200 people for this book. The White House is trying to downplay the access that he had here, saying he was on the grounds of the White House only about a dozen times, and about 95% of that was at the request of Steve Bannon. Aides here say the author did have one brief conversation over the phone with the president after the election, George, but we can't verify any of this ourselves because they refused to release the White House visitor logs.
Right, but even a dozen visits to the White House in the first year is actually quite a lot for an outside journalist. On another matter, as this was all happening, we learned overnight that the president has disbanded this commission that he had set up to back up his false claims about voter fraud in the last election.
Exactly. They say that so many states are refusing to participate in the investigation. That's why they disbanded it. You'll remember this was set up by the president after the election based on these unfounded claims that millions voted the election illegally. George, there is no widespread evidence of voter fraud.
Okay, Cecilia Vega, thanks very much.